Hold on. I got a call. What? Who? What? Ryan? Wait, Ryan who? Ryan McKinney? McKinney? Oh, here he is. Here he is. Sorry, I've got my brick phone. It's the Bell Atlantic Special Edition, Ryan. Look at that.
That
Just
is
saying
it
no.
looks like Zach's.
Yeah, Zach Morris.
Yeah.
That is top of the line there, Ryan.
It looks like it. And it fits in your pocket so nicely. So that's good.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
Exactly. Ryan, I have a question right off the bat for you. You ready? You ready?
Shoot.
Hot. I'm just firing it away.
Boom, boom, boom.
When it comes to you and your children, if you could have a magic rewind button that you could occasionally use or a magic pause button, which would you choose?
Ooh. Rewind.
Rewind.
Yeah.
All right. Care to explain?
Yeah. When I think about pausing, there's many times when I would love to just pause and, halt them from growing up. And then I live into the next moment of their life and I go, I wouldn't want to miss this either. And I wouldn't want to wait on that. But rewind, I could always go back and revisit. Right. So I could always go back and say, oh, even that seemingly boring day where we all sat around because it was raining outside and ended up playing Mario Kart. Oh yeah, that was actually fun. Like I could always go back and visit those kinds of things. But if I had to pause, I'd be postponing all the good stuff, just like I would be hanging on to the good stuff of the moment. So
I can't argue with you. You're not wrong.
Not wrong.
I mean, you built your case. I can't argue with it. I'd probably choose the same thing based on that explanation. So for those listening to The Moments That Made Us, tell us about Ryan McKinney. You are here in North Carolina with me.
Yep.
The guy yesterday that I recorded with, thank goodness, was not in North Carolina. It's always fun when the person's not like here. But he was in South Carolina. But Ryan we're almost, I think, exactly the same age, and you have a wife and a couple kiddos.
Yep.
Tell me about them.
Yeah. So, been married for almost 21 years. We've been together. She and I, my wife, Amber, have been together for 26. I don't know. I forget how long it's been now, but it seems like, well, it's more than half my life. And our kids are getting a little older for us anyway. One's 17, she's rising senior, and one is 13. He is going into 8th grade. Both of them got a couple of almost late birthday and then a late birthday kind of thing. But yeah, we're in the throes of it. We're in the throes of parenthood day in and day out. The kids are like, one is thinking about college and one is thinking about his next one-word answer, which is probably either bruh or meh. So
isn't it funny when texting with your kids starts to take on a new dimension? Because you're like, who even are you? Yeah. What is this? What are these acronyms you're using? What's with the attitude?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Letting them push the boundaries just a little bit without coming down on them too much. But then just watching them become who they're going to be long term is pretty magical to see.
Yeah. It reminds me of something I was reading by John Eldredge, and he talks about letting your kids have enough rope to fail, but being there and being there to catch them when they start to fall. And, we, as Gen Xers, like I know that probably rakes across the coals for some of your listeners. I know some of the folks that you've done talks for, but as Gen Xers, like we grew up drinking from the hose. We grew up, sleeping in the back dash of a really long Bonneville car across a family road trip or something. We, seat belts were optional. Like it was a different time. And now there's the helicopter mentality where we're, don't fall, don't, make sure everything's smooth and nothing's sharp and that's going to hurt you, which is, good in itself. But at the same time, there's something amazing about giving your kids enough room to really explore and learn. And that feeling that you got the first time your parents said, yeah, you can go to the store. And by the way, pick this up while you're there. And you rode your bike off and you were just a real person, free to go anywhere. And you were 8. They're getting it, they're getting that at age 15, 16, and 17. A lot of them are. And so it's good to watch them kind of just grow and have enough room to spread their wings a little.
You know what's funny that I thought about recently? Because so my two are 21 and 19 now. And for the life of me, I cannot picture a time ever when they snuck out. But I snuck out when I was a teenager. And I snuck out in 6th grade. I was sneaking out on occasion, out my window. And but I don't know how kids would sneak out these days because there's Ring cameras and there's like house alarms and they're not just the creaky step as you're going down. You got to avoid the creaky step because dad might hear it. But I'm sure sneaking out has plummeted these days. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I think about that sometimes myself. I'm like, maybe I'm just snowed and I don't know. I think you're right. There's enough alarms and bells and whistles and all that kind of stuff. And I did get the indication from my son today. We were joking around about something and he said, oh yeah, well, go to sleep and I'll shave your eyebrow off. And I was like, wow, you think you could shave my eyebrow off while I'm asleep? He goes, well, you are a heavy sleeper. And I was like, I may have to watch this one.
Oh my gosh. That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, let's tee up your moment. We talked about a few different ones before we hit record, but I'm definitely interested in the second one that you shared. But let's talk. So at what age did this, or how many years ago did this happen in your life? Was this 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago?
This was 6.5 years ago now, I think.
6.5 years ago.
Yeah, I always throw the half in. I don't know why I throw the half. Let's just say 6 years ago.
Sounds good. So what was going on in Ryan McKinney's life leading up to this that made it so significant? Like what was going on for work for you, just life in general?
So, 6 years ago, 42 years old, maybe 41 and a half, who knows? 42 years old. I had been working for a company here in Charlotte, and I'll leave them nameless now. And no bad blood, nothing wrong with that. Great place. It was awesome to work there. A lot of awesome people I get to work with in that place. But I got hired at that place about 10 or 11 years ago and had been in financial services for 10 years prior to that and in sales, and had led sales organizations, pretty big sales organizations, and was pretty darn good at it, enjoyed it, and then moved to Charlotte to be closer to family. And when I went to work at this place, they hired me because I spoke sales. But they hired me into an operations role. And in fact, it was a operations planning role to stand up a new process and organization within the company that would help all of the organizations within that company talk to each other better. The reason they hired me was because I had an entrepreneurial spirit and had done many entrepreneurial things, kind of had a knack for bringing things out of nothing, and had sales experience, which meant that I was their guy on the inside, the operations guy on the inside of the commercial side of the business. So I could liaison between the two. Well, I have to tell you that part because that leads up to the defining moment in the question. And we were doing a good job. Like, we stood up the process, we got it working. The organization was pleased with it, as pleased as it's going to be with an operation like that. And I decided I wanted to get back into sales. I really love working one-on-one with clients, one-on-one with customers. I love the interaction, the relationship building. I love all that piece of it. And there were 3 jobs available in the organization to move up. And one of them was to move into sales. And it was a junior role in sales, but I was willing to take a junior role in sales. One was like a lateral move in the commercial operation, but doing a lot what I was doing already. And then another one was in the operations side, and it was the director for transportation and distribution. And I got turned down for all 3 of them. And when I asked why, I got turned down for the sales job because the organization knew me as an operations person.
Mm-hmm.
I got turned down for the lateral move because I was overqualified for it. That was what they told me. Like, hey, you're going to come over here and you'll be gone in 6 months or move on to a different job, and we need somebody that'll stay.
Interesting.
I got turned down for the one in operations because they remembered that I was a sales guy. And they, you can't do this. You're a sales guy. So I knew at that moment I had a branding problem. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know it was a branding problem, but I knew that something like I had been giving off the wrong vibe or information around who I was, what I offered, how that worked. And therefore it was costing me mobility in the organization. So I hired a coach. And when I got that coach, we started working together, and in short order, she was able to help me understand that it was a branding problem, that I had been saying I want one thing, but doing something else to be agreeable. And then boundaries getting blurred, that kind of thing. Professional boundaries getting blurred, that kind of thing like that. So there's a lot of things we worked on together. And then a year later, that company, the same one that had told me no in 3 different areas, tapped me on the shoulder, came to me and said, we're starting this new thing up from nothing. We want to give you a budget to implement software and hire a team of 12, and we want you to run it because we know you'll do it right. Mm-hmm. My coach said, that's awesome. What do you want to do next? And I said, I think I want to do for other people what you just did for me. That was the moment.
Going back to the branding question, I heard someone say once that personal brand is just modern day lingo for your reputation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Agreed?
Yeah, I think so. But when you use the word brand, it's almost like it's not, because reputation, the way I think of reputation is that's what you stand for. That's what you will tolerate. That's what you'll do. That's the things you won't tolerate. But when I think about brand, it's almost like you selling yourself. So it's like a little adder on there. It's like, yes, it's
maybe
all those
things. Maybe one is action, the other is reaction.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, that sounds right.
Or maybe the way even you intentionally are presenting yourself compared to the way you maybe unintentionally are being perceived by the world around you.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, and that was the thing, is I had an unintentional brand, was that I would do whatever the organization needed me to do. Mm-hmm. But in their eyes, I was a generalist that wasn't necessarily fit for one side of the business or the other. Therefore, they were looking for something very specific, and they didn't see that in me. So when I was able to change the way I operated, I was able to rebrand all the things I was already doing, just making sure that I was careful about the boundaries I set, because what we tolerate, we teach, right? About the things that I wanted to do. And then when I said I wanted to do something, I needed to be willing to do the things that aren't fun and exciting that go along with that, not just the fun and exciting parts. So,
yeah, I have many questions.
Go for it.
The first one is this: why do you think coaching is? I mean, it's probably obvious, but why coaching is such an avoidant reality for men, especially, whether it's relationship coaching, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's uh, coaching for your golf swing, coaching for your tennis swing, coaching for whatever. Like,
Yeah.
why don't we pursue this like crazy and just depend on the organic connections we have, and then sometimes we'll bring it up when we're sitting around with another guy or another whoever human, and we're bouncing things off each other. Like, we let it happen organically some, but why do you think we avoid this? Because it seems like everybody should be running out and desiring and paying money because of how worthwhile it is to
Yeah.
people that are doing coaching, because it seems to be very much like therapy, how people avoid it. And it's the smartest thing you could do for yourself is to have someone help sort you out and go, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah.
That just was such a game changer for me. So why do you think we avoid it so much?
There's probably, I guess there's a few reasons. I think one of them is, I think people do associate, let me cover one thing first. I think people do associate coaching and therapy a lot. And I heard a great way to distinguish between the two. And essentially, therapy is, and both are very necessary and both very needed for both, for very different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is designed to support you to go back and unpack trauma and release a lot of the negativity, a lot of the things that could be holding you back from a past trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
coaching is, at least in the definition from ICF, International or Coach Federation, is to take you from where you are now to a place of advantage for you, and kind of being
That's
the
cool.
Obi-Wan Kenobi for the Luke Skywalkers of the world and guiding people
Mm-hmm.
through that
Mm-hmm.
with a professional learned skill to help them navigate. And some people say, hey, I don't really need that. And that's okay. That's totally fine. To get back to your initial question, there's the reason that I think people avoid it is because it comes down to admitting that we need help. We need support in something. And a lot of times when we admit that, we have to either subconsciously or overtly admit we are wrong in something, or that we have failed at something and that we cannot handle it on our own. I think
Mm-hmm.
we're hardwired to try to prove it that we can. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the big reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gosh. Well, what do you? My brain is going in a lot of directions.
That's fun.
It's just, why do you? Oh gosh, here's your chance to build your case, Ryan, on because you yourself are a coach
Yep.
at this time in your life. But build your case for the person that says, I can just go on YouTube and then I don't have to admit to anyone and be vulnerable. It's much less scary. I'll just go on YouTube or I'll just read a book. And that's assuming they're not oblivious to the fact that they need coaching and that there's anything that is a limiter on their success, which we all have limiters. Sometimes we're just completely either delusional or oblivious.
Yeah.
But how would you build the case for the advantage of working with another human being in a coaching relationship compared to, let me just go watch 20 YouTube videos and try to implement them, or let me read a book or read a blog, whatever.
Yeah.
Help me understand and help everyone listening understand the unique advantage of having another human being that you're working with.
Yeah. So let's take it from a sports analogy standpoint, and then I'm going to say this, and then I'll make my case.
Mm-hmm.
And in coaches, we love to ask questions, right? So the question I'm going to ask is, would you rather have Tiger Woods for 1 hour to teach you specifically how to hit a drive? Or would you rather have 100 hours of free driving range time plus 100 hours of YouTube videos? And the reason I ask that is because when you've got someone who knows what they're doing, who is an expert in helping you to get where you want to go, there is no substitute for doing one-on-one. And there's a reason for that. Can you learn everything you need from ChatGPT and YouTube and reading books and listening to podcasts? Probably. Can you organize it all together on your own? I would bet that the way that God has designed the human mind and human heart, that yes, you probably can. Do you have, or would you want to invest the amount of time it takes to do that on your own, discover and learn on your own? And that's a question that you have to ask, because Tiger Woods...
And assume that you're going to hold yourself accountable to actually do all the things that you're learning.
Yeah, that's assuming, exactly. That's assuming that you're going to do it all when you're supposed to do it and everything else. And when you step off course just a little bit, you're going to remind yourself to get back on course. And so a lot of times, let me debunk a couple of things. One is whether it's life coaching, leadership coaching, performance coaching, wellness coaching, it doesn't matter. In any one of those, when you talk about, a lot of people get the idea that a coach is really like a cheerleader. Hey, well, let's look at your idea and oh yes, that's good. It's awesome. And I'm going to make sure that you do your stuff. And those are parts of coaching for sure. But that would highly gloss over the value of having someone. And I say that as someone who has a coach now and has had a coach and has been without a coach before, recognizing that is having someone who is somewhat at your disposal, focused on you and your goals and your agenda, is completely different than even meeting with a mentor. Mentors are great for someone who has been down the road that you were planning on going, or that you're on already. And they're completely voluntary. So the other part about making a case for having a coach is that when I work with someone, I'm responsible to them as their coach. I'm responsible to them to bring their, the accountability, to bring the tools, the techniques, to bring the challenge, the perspective, to bring all of the things that are magical about coaching, and the reason I fell in love with it. I'm responsible to them. I am not responsible for their success. That is on them. And I think that comes out very clearly when you start working with someone who is a great coach, because when you can make the distinction between responsible to and responsible for, it allows that client to be at choice and be in the driver's seat the whole time. And that way, when they win, they win.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah. It's really got me thinking. That's why I'm slow with my words, which is rare. Yeah, coaching. How about for the person that says, "Well, I just don't think it's worth the investment." Just like therapy is, like my counselor that I go to on occasion. I haven't been to see him in probably 2 years, but there was a season where I was going once a month at least. But it's $120 an hour to meet with him, or 55 minutes. And so I started challenging myself and saying, I'm not going back to him until I can put everything into practice that I've already talked about with him. So I need to go back to my notes, go back to the books he's recommended, go back to the charts and things like that. But I'm convinced that every time I go to him, it's worth it. So how do you coach the person that says, I don't know how to invest the money into something like that because I'd rather invest money somewhere else. So why is this a good business decision to take some of your hard-earned income and put it towards coaching instead of to more advertising or a vacation with the family, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, and those are all those are things I hear all the time, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And when it comes to making the investment, one of the things that I've tried to practice in my coaching business is that when someone has the desire to and work on themselves, work through a program, and they've got goals they want to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
it truly is. It is a choice about what you want more. And you won't find me on the convincing side of, hey, you shouldn't take that vacation with your family so that you can do coaching with me. You won't find me on the side of that. You won't hear me say those things.
Mm-hmm.
I will ask you about your investment and your choices. And I will ask you to consider which one you want to do and which one supports that family best. And if you can't find a reason that it's an investment with a wise and worthwhile return on investment, I'll be the
Mm-hmm.
first one to tell you, don't hire me then. And the reason I can do that so confidently, Mike, is because if they can't tell me without a doubt that this is a good thing for them,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to work with them. They aren't there yet. They don't quite
Mm-hmm.
have what it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And neither one of us will be successful. When they're
Yeah.
ready, and it is decidedly so that this is the right decision for them, it's almost like a no-brainer. It's like, and I've got, don't get me wrong, plenty of people that say, hey, it sounds amazing. It's just not for me right now. I got
Mm-hmm.
plenty of people that say, you know what, this was an awesome experience, but I think I've got what I need. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of people that come back and say, you know what, this sounds like it's going to be amazing, but how can I be sure?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell them, this
Mm-hmm.
should be one of the toughest decisions you ever make. If it is
Mm-hmm.
not a tough decision for you, then it is not the right time for you.
Mm-hmm.
But your evidence of whether it will work or not will
Mm-hmm.
likely be the answer that you give, whether it's worthwhile or not. I can't
Mm-hmm.
answer that for you. Because I
Yeah.
mean, I have been, like I mentioned before, when I was in finance, I was in the world of sales, and there was a lot of people trying to teach you to, browbeat people into, buying things and this and that. And uh, I learned a long time ago that people hate to be sold to, but everyone loves to buy what they need.
Mm.
And if you can
That's good.
find the people that need what you have, selling's
Uh-huh.
easy. And there's no
Uh-huh.
reason to make it hard.
Then it's just working out the agreement.
Yeah. Working out the
Mm-hmm.
agreement and having a good time doing what you do best. And in my case, that is helping people reach their potential. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, there's the business side of it. Of course, there's the commercial side of it. Of course, you'll see um, Instagram posts and you'll see all the LinkedIn things and all that kind of stuff. When it comes down to it, you have to have enough belief in yourself to get started with a coach. And if you
Mm-hmm.
got that, you can borrow all of my belief until we build yours up.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, but here's what I would like in closing.
Okay.
You've got the floor, just like for those of the listeners that have stuck it out for this whole episode, you're going to give them a couple little golden nuggets right here. Just things that you might poke and prod with one of your clients. Like just a couple, maybe one little exercise they can do,
Okay.
maybe one good probing question, something like that.
Okay. Let me think for just a second. I'm trying to think of something simple that they can do without. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit to work with here. What and I'll give you a resource that you can also tap into.
Cool.
Shameless plug coming, just letting you know. Introspective questions, asking yourself different questions and getting into the habit of asking these questions. There are a few areas of life that are very, very, very important to all of us, and the way we feel, the way we approach life, the way we believe and think about life. And I'm going to give you these areas of life. They are spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, social, environmental, and I'll explain that one in just a moment, financial, and then your ability to lead, your leadership. The environmental one can be your tools that you use to do the work you do. It can be the office you sit in. It can be the dirty car with the, granola bar wrapper under the passenger seat. It can be the gray wall behind me, which is in remodel state, by the way. But it can be all of those things. These are major influencers in your life. And if you can take those 8 areas of life and just really get a good assessment about how you feel about them, how satisfied are you in those areas of life? And then when you look at that and you don't feel satisfied in one of those areas, pick something, it's just going to sound super simple, pick something that would help you move the needle on being satisfied. So if I'm not feeling close to God in my spiritual part of my life, what is something I could do? Well, I could read my Bible more, right? Or if I am not feeling emotionally stable because there's lots of things going on, I could start to do some practices around de-stressing. I could take on a hobby or something that helps me to alleviate stress. If I have a lack of mental clarity, I can talk with a friend, I can talk with a therapist, talk with a coach, talk with anyone, and ask some questions and get clear. What is it that would help you to move the needle in any one of those areas? But if you'll just focus on those 8 areas of life, you will encompass the majority of the things that influence you. And if you want a resource to do that, here comes the shameless plug, by the way.
I love it.
If you want a resource to do that, you can reach out to me at my website. It's ryandmckinney.com. That's D as in Daniel, because that's my middle name, ryandmckinney.com. And I have some sessions that I use. They're called Connect sessions. They don't cost anything. It's just a way for me to get to know you. You get to know me. And I have some exercises where we can do an assessment of those areas of life for you. And that's free of charge. You get to walk away with some super ultimate clarity, and it's good reps for me. I get to meet somebody new, somebody awesome and exciting. And who knows, you may say, what's it like to work with you? And if you do, awesome. And if you don't, also awesome. Like I said, I get to meet somebody new. So that's a resource for you.
Love it. Ryan, we're out of time. We got to land this plane.
All right, brother.
Woo! Did you already have dinner?
I did.
I didn't. I'm recording two podcasts back to back, so I'll be eating about 9:00.
Yeah.
What'd you have for dinner? I'm just curious.
We had wet burritos. So good.
Now, it was a chicken, beef, tofu. What do we got inside there?
So my wife is Mexican American and she's from California. And so when we go out to visit, they always load us down with spices and different seasonings and stuff. So we have carne asada seasoning, and we put that on ground beef, and it is so good.
Okay, you got to stop talking right now. I'm starting to drool. Ryan, thank you for being on. I really appreciate you. Make sure you guys, it is a no-brainer to at least explore having a business coach in your life. Ryan's a great one. If you want to check it out, ryandmckinney.com.
.com.
Is that right?
That's it.
All right. That's where they can find you. Ryan, I hope you have a great day and look forward to grabbing a Starbucks soon and keeping it going, learning from each other. It's awesome. Thanks,
for having
man.
me.
Yep. Take care.
All right.